Hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians in Gaza have suffered another wet, miserable night in makeshift shelters, and there's worse to come. Heavy rain, strong winds and flash floods are forecast in the coming days. Israel is still severely restricting humanitarian aid, including shelters, in breach of the US-brokered ceasefire it agreed to more than 2 months ago. 15 centimetres of rain are expected within the next 48 hours. That's around 2 months of rainfall in less than a week. Aid groups say 1.5 million Palestinians are living in tents and flimsy structures. An estimated 300,000 mobile homes are still needed. Let's go to Hani Mahmoud, who is in Gaza City for us. Hani, so there's been plenty of notice that the weather was going to worsen like this. Why have people in Gaza been left so vulnerable like this?
Malene, after 2 years of war and displacement, it's becoming clear here that there is an added shock just driving around and seeing people on the side of each road that we've been through so far, and the river like a flood in the middle. People are in a complete state of shock right now. 2 years of displacement, 2 years of being not just displaced, becoming homeless, as many of these buildings are not proper for them, not safe enough for them to survive in. But we look at here this added shock, leaving many people here feeling exhausted, feeling traumatized, and feeling abandoned and hopeless. So the Byron storm itself is not just a weather event for many of the people here. And just point something really important here. People in the past years, they did enjoy winter time. They loved it so much, but not at these conditions. It is different. It's not just a winter a weather event. It's added. It's colliding with displacement, homelessness, exhaustion, and trauma, and collapsed health system. The contamination. Many of the roads here, not just they used to be in the past month just rubble filled and sewage filled roads. Now they're flooded with water, with rainwater that is mixed with the sewage because of the destruction of the infrastructure, and just making it very difficult for people to survive these difficult conditions. Of course, all of this is happening amid restricted aid mechanism here. Aid is not entering at the level that is needed for people here. We're talking about basic things that would help people to survive these conditions. When you talk about in terms of tents, the tarps, the tarpaulins, the plastic sheeting that is proper for people to protect themselves are not entering at the level that is sufficient enough that would leave people to survive these conditions. Here at this right location, people ended up setting up their tents near the shore here in Gaza City because the city is flooded with many of these makeshift tents. It was the only empty land right here, empty space for people. And now the fear, as the storm intensifies, the tides are going to rise and possibly flood the tents and sweep them off this area. So there is an already overwhelming feeling that people are in a state of constant and permanent displacement. There's one thing that as we pulled up in this area, people talked to us that they could not, in the past 2 days, they've been preparing themselves. And of course, this is just an act out of desperation and trying to survive these conditions, the worsening weather conditions. But they talked about lacking many of the basic necessities, particularly during the night. The lack of a fuel by itself here, making it near impossible for people here to stay warm and to protect their children. Food is not available at an amount that is sufficient as well. Whatever is available in the market one might say the market is flooded with food, but it's non-essential. The type of food that is not required at this time of the year to keep people warm, to keep them healthy and survive these difficult conditions. So all in all, we look at multi-layers of struggle that people are going through, while at the same time we're approaching the end of phase 1 of the ceasefire, where it was expected to witness the entry of much needed supplies and essentials here. But so far it's less than half what has been agreed upon in terms of the aided trucks, in terms of mobile homes, in terms of tents. It is not nearly half what have been agreed upon, leaving 1.5 people abandoned and hopeless and facing these difficult conditions alone.
Okay, thank you for that. Hani Mahmoud there for us in Gaza City. Let's go to Tareq Azzoum. He joins us from al-Mawasi. Now, al-Mawasi particularly vulnerable to this sort of weather. The majority of people living here are in those makeshift tents. How are they coping under such conditions?
Well, we understand that what used to be a welcome seasonic change has become for those people on the ground as a great source of fear and disruption, specifically for tens of thousands of Palestinians who are living in makeshift tents, as you can right now see in the frame. Let me step out just to give you a better scene on the ground for these makeshift shelters that are really stretching as far as the eye can catch after they were forced to leave the houses that have been destroyed by the Israeli military, and now they have set up their makeshift tents on a bare sand that is quite stripped from any source of infrastructure. These makeshift tents have been distributed by UN agencies and different charitable organizations 2 years ago, and they have been used since that time. And for them, they believe that the winter season is another episode of suffering which add layers and layers of hardships for them. We can see that many families are living inside these flimsy tents that they are quite thin, unreinforced and torn, which gives them a very rare opportunity to face and even to withstand the polar low that is hitting Gaza. And people are expecting that the peak of this low will soon reach the strip, which makes the possibility of uprooting these makeshift tents to be incredibly high. And even on our way to al-Mawasi, we saw different streets that have been quite surrounded by water, dirt, and many makeshift displacement camps have been flooded with water, with the rainfall and with the water as well, where civilians were trying to entrench them with sandbags and different barriers that turned later into muddy areas, making movement of civilians and vehicles sounds extremely very difficult. And as rainfall continues to happen here in al-Mawasi area, different civilians are still calling and sounding the emergency calls to Gaza Civil Defense to provide them with any sort of materials. But what they've got a response from the civil defense is that they are themselves struggling to provide assistance given the severe shortages of equipment and the limited number of makeshift tents and mobile houses that were supposed to be sent to the strip. But what has been allowed into Gaza remains totally a fraction of what people truly need on the ground, despite all promises that were delivered by the Israeli side and all verbal commitments as well during the first phase of the agreement.
Tareq, the pictures speak for themselves. It is incredibly grim living in such conditions, no doubt. And as you pointed out there, we are expecting the weather to get even worse. Is there any hope or any expectation that more supplies are going to come through in time to deal with the worsening weather? What are aid organizations saying?
Well, aid organization, Melina, are really sounding the alarm over the significant deterioration of humanitarian conditions in Gaza. Before the first drop of rain really falls on Gaza, UN agencies and local authorities have been warning that any significant rainfall would really deepen the humanitarian emergency in Gaza, because they believe that these tents have not been designed, in fact, for winter conditions. They were temporarily used as shelters for families, but now there are different children inside these makeshift tents who are completely exposed to different preventable diseases. And this is one of the main concerns that was shared by Gaza's health ministry, that if thousands of people will be forced to sleep wet and cold, they will absolutely be facing different preventable diseases that will spread swiftly among displaced families who are right now living in conditions, and they were completely pushed beyond their own limits. But on the ground, UN agencies and different NGOs are saying that what was sent to Gaza is nothing compared to what has been truly required, and basically they are saying that they have been doing extraordinary work in order to provide assistance for Gaza's residents, but till now aid has been systematically used as a weapon to extract more political concessions on the table of negotiations, while families on the ground are really bearing the brunt of this conflict. We can see, and different accusations were exchanged between Israel and the Palestinian side here in Gaza, where Gaza's government media office said that the Israeli military did not commit to the terms of the agreement when it comes to the humanitarian protocol, where the numbers of makeshift tents that were required were not delivered, and basically people on the ground did not touch tangible and palpable changes in their living conditions. That's why winter for them is an episode of completely fear, and they believe that even living inside partially destroyed houses is not safe enough, because a significant day of rainfall can really collapse roofs and leave people without any complete protection against the cold and also the rain as well.
Okay, Tareq, thank you so much for your reporting. Tareq Azzoum there in al-Mawasi.
Don't miss out and get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.